how a single house spider caused the evacuation of an entire alien colony. Doug Puddle was having a perfectly normal day maintaining the hydroponic systems on Outpost Gamma-9 when he noticed something that made his blood run cold. There, perched innocently on the edge of a tomato plant, sat Charlotte. Now, Charlotte wasn't supposed to be there. In fact, Charlotte wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Outpost Gamma-9. The small house spider had been Doug's secret companion for the past 3 months, living quietly in a terrarium in his quarters, helping keep the fruit flies at bay. She was, as far as Doug knew, the only spider within 50 light-years of Earth. And she had escaped. "Oh no," Doug whispered, watching as Charlotte delicately picked her way across the leaves. "Oh no, no, no." You see, keeping any Earth arachnids on Outpost Gamma-9 was strictly forbidden. Not because they were dangerous, they weren't. Not because they might contaminate the environment, they couldn't. No. The reason was far more ridiculous. The Krithians were absolutely, irrationally, comically terrified of spiders. The Krithians, who made up roughly 80% of the outpost's population, were generally a logical and level-headed species. They had mastered faster-than-light travel, developed revolutionary medical technologies, and even figured out how to make zero-gravity ice cream that didn't float away. But show them anything with 8 legs and they completely lost their minds. Doug had discovered this particular quirk during his first week on the station, when he'd made the mistake of showing Ambassador Zizek a picture of his pet tarantula back home. The ambassador had promptly fainted, then spent the next 3 days in quarantine, convinced that spider particles had somehow contaminated the air through the digital display. Which was exactly why Doug had kept Charlotte a secret. He'd smuggled her egg sac aboard in his personal effects, justifying it as necessary pest control for the hydroponics bay. And honestly, she'd been doing a fantastic job. The fruit fly population was down 90%, and crop yields were up 15%. But now she was loose, and Doug had approximately zero idea how to catch her without alerting the entire station to her presence. "Come on, Charlotte," he coaxed, slowly reaching for her with a cupped hand. "Let's get you back home before." Maintenance technician Puddle. The booming voice of Security Chief VC Tor made Doug jump, accidentally bumping the tomato plant. Charlotte, startled by the movement, dropped down on a silk thread, disappearing between the rows of plants. "What seems to be the problem?" Chief Doug asked, trying to keep his voice steady as he tracked Charlotte's descent with mounting horror. "Routine inspection," VC Tor announced, his 4 eyes scanning the hydroponics bay with military precision. "The ambassador is conducting a tour for potential colonists later today, and everything must be perfect." Doug felt sweat beading on his forehead as he watched Charlotte scuttle under a nearby storage container. "Everything's great here, Chief. Just finished the daily maintenance check. No problems at all. None whatsoever. Everything is completely normal and spider-free." VC Tor's upper right eye twitched. "What was that last part?" "Spider-free? Oh, I just meant, because of the regulations. Always good to confirm there are no Earth arachnids present, which there aren't. At all. Never have been. Never will be." Ephraim Vex Tor hummed suspiciously. "See that it stays that way, Technician Puddle. The last thing we need is an incident like the Great Daddy Longlegs panic of 2023. As VC Tor turned to leave, Doug caught a glimpse of Charlotte emerging from her hiding spot, apparently deciding this was the perfect moment to explore the wide world of Outpost Gamma-9's ventilation system. Doug watched helplessly as she disappeared into an air vent, knowing that his perfectly normal day was about to become anything but. The first spider sighting occurred exactly 23 minutes later in Conference Room B, where Ambassador X was preparing for their tour presentation. The ambassador was in the middle of practicing their speech about the outpost's completely Earth creature-free environment when Charlotte decided to rappel down from the ceiling on a silken thread, directly in front of the holoprojector. The sound that came out of Ambassador Zeke's mouth defied description in any known language, human or alien. It started somewhere in the ultrasonic range, quickly descended through several octaves, and finally settled into what could only be described as a continuous stream of panic gargling. The ambassador's personal security detail burst into the room, weapons drawn, only to find their superior sprawled across the conference table in a dead faint. One trembling finger pointed at the now empty space where Charlotte had been. Security breach. Security breached. The alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the station. This is not a drill. Arachnid contamination detected in Sector 7. Initiate emergency protocol Spider Squish 77. Doug, who had been frantically searching the ventilation access points, felt his stomach drop through the floor. Protocol Spider Squish 77 was the Krithians' most extreme response to arachnid incidents. It involved sealed bulkheads, decontamination foam, and something called the Stomper that he really didn't want to see deployed. He rushed to the conference room, arriving just as Security Chief V.C. Tor was interrogating a still swooning Ambassador Zakestate. ... and it descended from above. Like a harbinger of doom, the ambassador was saying, dabbing at their forehead with a sanitized cloth. 8 legs of pure terror, V.C. Tor. 8. Do you know what kind of creature has 8 legs? A spider, V.C. Tor growled, all 4 eyes turning to fix on Doug as he entered. An earth spider. The very thing Technician Puddle assured me was not present on this station mere minutes ago. Now, let's not jump to conclusions, Doug said, raising his hands placatingly. Maybe it was just a shadow, or a piece of string, or... It made eye contact with me, Ambassador Zizek wailed, all 8 of its eyes staring into my soul. Actually, Doug said before he could stop himself, house spiders typically only have 6 or 7 visible eyes, though they do technically have 8. The anterior median eyes are often quite small and... The room fell silent. Even the klaxons seemed to quiet down for a moment. And how exactly, V.C. Tor asked, his voice dangerously calm. Do you know so much about Earth arachnids, Technician Puddle? Doug opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Would you believe I'm just really into Earth zoology documentaries? The security chief's upper right eye began to twitch again. Lock down the station. Full containment protocols. No one enters or leaves until we find this creature. And Technician Puddle. Yes, Chief. Yes. You've just been promoted to head of our spider task force. Congratulations. Oh joy, Doug muttered, watching as teams of Krithian security officers began sealing off corridors while wearing what appeared to be full hazmat suits reinforced with bubble wrap. Charlotte, what have you gotten us into? The klaxons resumed their wailing, and somewhere in the ventilation system, a small house spider continued her grand adventure, blissfully unaware of the chaos she was causing. The next 12 hours on Outpost Gamma-9 could best be described as organized chaos, if by organized you meant absolute pandemonium with paperwork. The Spider Task Force, consisting of Doug and 15 heavily armored Krithian volunteers who jumped at their own shadows, had set up command center in the station's main security office. Status report, V.C. Tor demanded, pacing back and forth while wrapped in what appeared to be several layers of static-proof bubble wrap. The security chief had insisted it was tactical armor, but Doug was pretty sure he'd seen the same stuff used to package the station's coffee maker. We've had 17 reported sightings in the past hour alone, one of the officers reported, their voice muffled through their hazmat helmet. Though 14 of those turned out to be dust bunnies, 2 were shadows, and 1 was actually Lieutenant Prague's own antenna. And the actual Spider V-Tor demanded, Still at large, sir. Doug watched as the security feeds showed various scenes of escalating ridiculousness across the station. In the mess hall, a group of Krithians had taken to wearing their food trays as makeshift helmets, convinced that Charlotte would drop down into their soup. The maintenance crew had sealed all the air vents with what looked like enough tape to wrap a small moon. And someone had apparently started a black market for Earth-style fly swatters, which were now trading for roughly the same price as a small shuttle. The ambassador is demanding action, V.C. Tor announced. They're threatening to contact the Krithian High Council if we don't resolve this situation immediately. Look, Doug tried again. I really think we're overreacting here. Charlotte, the spider is completely harmless. House spiders are actually beneficial. They eat insects, they help maintain ecological balance, You named it. V.C. Tor's screech reached a pitch that made the security monitors flicker. You named the 8-legged horror. Not personally, Doug backpedaled. That's just, a common name for spiders. Like how all cats are called Whiskers, or all dogs are called Spot, or all security chiefs are called actually, never mind that last one. Before V.C. Tor could respond, the station's communication system crackled to life. Spider Task Force. Emergency in hydroponics bay 3. It's the voice dissolved into what sounded like hyperventilating through a paper bag. Report. What's happening? VC Tor demanded. It's building something, the voice whispered. Some kind of web. Doug's heart sank. He knew exactly what that meant. Charlotte wasn't just exploring anymore, she was setting up shop. And if she was building a web, that meant... Oh no, he muttered. What? What does that mean? VC Tor grabbed Doug by the shoulders, all four eyes wide with panic. What fresh horror is this? Well, Doug said slowly, when a mommy spider and a daddy spider love each other very much. The security chief's face went through several interesting color changes before settling on a peculiar shade of green. Are you telling me that this creature is laying eggs? Almost certainly already, has Doug confirmed. Charlotte, I mean, the spider was carrying an egg sac when she was first spotted. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft sound of VC Tor's bubble wrap armor popping as he slowly sank into his chair. How? How many eggs? One of the officers whispered. Doug did some quick mental math. Oh, anywhere from 100 to several hundred, depending on the species. The entire security team made a noise that sounded like a choir of deflating balloons. Evacuate the station, VC Tor suddenly screamed, leaping to his feet. Initiate protocol, burn it with fire. Now, let's not be hasty, Doug started, but it was too late. The evacuation alarm began to sound, its wailing somehow even more dramatic than the previous klaxons. As chaos erupted around him, Doug couldn't help but admire Charlotte's timing. In less than 24 hours, one small spider had managed to bring an entire space station to its knees. If that wasn't a humanity, moment, he didn't know what was. Of course, now he just had to figure out how to catch her before the Krithians decided to nuke the entire station from orbit. Because knowing VC Tor, that option was definitely on the table. The evacuation of Outpost Gamma-9 resembled nothing so much as a circus designed by someone who'd heard circuses described but had never actually seen one. Krithians were stuffing entire rooms worth of belongings into emergency pods, convinced that every item left behind would become spider real estate. The station's corridors had become a tide of panicked aliens and floating debris, all heading for the escape pods. We can't just abandon the station, Doug argued, chasing after VC Tor, who was making his way to the command center while wrapped in what appeared to be even more layers of bubble wrap. Do you have any idea how much paperwork is involved in a full station evacuation? Paperwork, VC Tor's voice cracked. Paperwork. We are facing an invasion of countless eight-legged demons, and you're worried about paperwork. Well, someone's going to have to explain to Earth Command why their multi-billion credit station was abandoned because of a spider that weighs less than a paperclip. VC Tor stopped so suddenly that 3 Krithians behind him collided with his bubble wrap armor, creating a sound like a popcorn machine having an existential crisis. Then what do you suggest, spider expert? Doug winced at the title but seized his chance. Let me try it my way. No evacuation, no protocol, burn it with fire, and definitely no nuclear options. You have 1 hour, VC Tor declared. After that, we implement protocol nope, and the station gets sterilized from orbit. That's not a real protocol, is it? I just made it up. But at this point, I don't care. With time ticking down, Doug rushed to his quarters. He knew Charlotte was a creature of habit, all spiders were. She would have sought out a quiet, undisturbed corner to build her web, somewhere with good air circulation and plenty of insects. The hydroponics air recycling unit, he realized. Racing to the maintenance shaft, Doug grabbed his tool belt and started climbing. Sure enough, as he reached the upper level, he spotted Charlotte's handiwork, a beautiful web stretched across the corner of the recycling unit's housing. And there, in the center, was Charlotte herself, along with what looked like several dozen newly hatched spiderlings. Okay, Charlotte, Doug muttered, reaching into his pocket for his secret weapon, a jar of fruit flies he'd been saving for her next feeding. Time to go home. What followed was perhaps the most delicate rescue operation in human-alien relations history. With careful movements and strategic placement of fruit flies, Doug managed to guide Charlotte and her babies into a makeshift containment unit. Each tiny spider followed the trail of insects, unaware they were participating in a mission to save an entire space station. With 5 minutes to spare, Doug presented himself at the command center, where VC Tor was preparing to give the evacuation order. Mission accomplished, Doug announced, holding up a sealed terrarium. 1 mother spider and approximately 150 babies, all contained. VC Tor peered at the terrarium through 3 layers of protective shielding. And you're sure you got them all? Every last one. They followed the food right into their new home. Turns out spiders are pretty predictable if you know how they think. Fascinating, VC Tor said, in a tone that suggested it was anything but. And what do you plan to do with them now? Well, Doug said carefully, considering how effective they've been at pest control in the hydroponics bay when properly contained, of course I was thinking we might want to revise those regulations about earth arachnids. The security chief's eye twitch returned with a vengeance. Explain. Our crop yields are up 15% since the spider arrived. No more fruit flies, no more aphids, completely organic pest control. We could market it as an eco-friendly innovation. There was a long pause as VC Tor considered this, broken only by the sound of his bubble wrap creaking as he shifted uncomfortably. Fine, he finally said. But they stay in sealed terrariums, with backup terrariums, and backup backups, and 24-hour surveillance, and monthly inspections, and… I'll draft the new safety protocols myself, Doug promised. And that's how Earth's most effective pest control system was officially introduced to space agriculture, though the Krithians still insisted on calling it the contained 8-legged organic pest elimination system, rather than using the word spider. As for Charlotte and her babies, they went on to become the ancestors of an entire subspecies of space-adapted house spiders. Their terrariums can still be found in hydroponics bays across the galaxy, each one equipped with multiple backup containment systems and, much to Doug's amusement, a tiny sign that reads, in case of escape, please notify humans immediately. Do not attempt heroics. The incident also led to the creation of the now famous Puddle protocols for introducing Earth species to alien environments. The first rule? Always check if your alien colleagues are arachnophobic before showing them pictures of your pets. VC Tor eventually recovered from the ordeal, though he never quite gave up his taste for tactical bubble wrap armor. Some say that on quiet nights, you can still hear him conducting surprise inspections of the spider containment units, muttering about protocols and backup protocols for the backup protocols. And Doug? He got promoted to head of xenobiological integration, though most people just called him the Spider Whisperer. He didn't mind it came with a pay raise and, more importantly, official permission to keep Charlotte and her descendants as vital agricultural maintenance equipment. As far as he was concerned, it was proof that even the smallest Earth creatures could make a big impact on the galaxy, whether the galaxy was ready for them or not.